Hey, you! How long do you plan on sleeping?
What? I just gave birth to a child, you know?
So what? As a wife, you should have come back home and taken care of the housework, even on the day you gave birth. My mother-in-law said such unreasonable things. There is no need to show mercy to someone like her. Anyway, where are you now? I told my mother-in-law where I was at the moment. And my mother-in-law started to get flustered, even over the phone.
Why? Why is that?
My name is Emma. I'm a 30-year-old company employee. I've been married to my husband Greg for 3 years. We met through work. Greg used to be my supervisor at the company where I started working after graduating from college. And when I joined the company, Greg was assigned as my mentor.
You're doing well, Emma. But don't let your guard down.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your guidance. My husband was generally reserved and had a strict demeanor. So, I always felt a bit nervous when working with him. But despite being strict, he gave me precise advice. And working with him was a great learning experience. That's why I had a lot of respect for him. And since my husband rarely praised others, I felt genuinely happy whenever he did. Our relationship started to grow closer during the company's Christmas party. I wasn't good at large gatherings like these parties, so I always made sure not to attend the after party. And that year, there was a scheduled after party, but my husband declined to join, saying he had to visit his parents. Both I and others genuinely believed that my husband would visit his parents. As usual, I made up a random excuse to decline the after party and decided to go to a cafe by myself. After joining the party with everyone for a while, I wanted some alone time to relax and calm myself. So I went to a cafe that was open late and sat down to have a coffee. Then, the cafe door opened, and it was my husband who walked in.
It's Greg.
Didn't he say he had something to do at his parents'? I thought that as I watched him from a distant table. The interior of the cafe was dimly lit with mostly indirect lighting, so it seemed like he hadn't noticed me. After he placed his order, a beautiful parfait arrived at his table.
Huh? A parfait?
I couldn't believe my eyes. Seeing him, who was usually so quiet, eating a parfait with such a happy expression, made me wonder. He told his subordinates he had something to do. And here he was, alone in a cafe, enjoying a parfait and looking so content. I couldn't help but feel so intrigued by him after witnessing that. I was slightly happy to see an unexpected side of my reserved and strict boss. Since then, I became very curious about him, and I started making advances towards him. At first, even when I invited him for drinks, he didn't accept. But knowing that he liked sweets, I invited him to a dessert bar known for its delicious treats. With that strategy, he finally agreed to go with me, and I succeeded in meeting him after work, just the two of us. Even though work had ended, he still talked to me as my boss. But when the dessert he ordered was placed in front of him, his face softened with delight. Seeing Greg like that, I couldn't help but smile. Noticing my expression, he laughed slightly, looking a bit embarrassed.
By the way, why did you invite me to this kind of place? I don't think I mentioned that I like sweets.
Well, the truth is, I saw it.
Saying that, I told Greg about what happened at the previous Christmas party. Then he blushed and said,
Seriously? You saw that? That's embarrassing.
It's okay. I haven't told anyone at work, of course. But honestly, I felt a sense of familiarity with you, Greg. I always thought you were a perfect person.
Nah, I'm far from perfect. I'm always struggling.
Huh, is that so? As I continued talking with him, my impression of him kept changing. I realized that you have to talk and get to know the other person deeply. And the more I get to know him, the more I became interested in him. If you're up for it, let's go eat delicious desserts together again. Greg, please also tell me about good places you eat. Once I realized my feelings, I actively started pursuing him. After a while, he asked me out on a date.
There's a cafe I often go to that serves delicious pancakes. How about going there on our day off?
Yes. Inside, I was doing a little victory dance as I accepted his invitation. Yes, I'd love to. For the first time, I went to a cafe with him on a day off, not after work. There, I saw him in casual clothes, and I thought he looked even more attractive. From then on, we started going on regular dates, and our distance kept getting closer. And finally, he formally asked me to be in a relationship, and we started dating. I knew he cared a lot about me, so I was happy. After about 2 years of dating, he proposed to me. Of course, I accepted right then and there. Once the decision was made, we quickly had our families meet. And 6 months after the proposal, we had our wedding. My colleagues were surprised to hear that Greg and I were getting married. Apparently, no one had thought we were dating. But everyone was very happy for us and gave us their blessings. And so, our married life began. Living together with my beloved husband made me incredibly happy. Since it wouldn't be appropriate for my husband and me to be in the same department at work, I requested a transfer to a different department. It was challenging to learn the job in the new department, but I enjoyed the work there and had a fulfilling time. My husband wasn't as reserved in private as he was at work. He talked to me a lot, and we even goofed around together. Both my married life and my work were fulfilling, and I tasted the level of happiness I had never experienced before. However, amidst this happy life, I suddenly encountered a source of worry. It was my mother-in-law.
Oh, you're here too.
Yes. Hi. Whenever we visited my in-law's house, my mother-in-law looked at me with a very stern gaze. But her sternness was different from the way my husband looked at me when we worked together. My mother-in-law's gaze had malicious intent.
Emma, you were so slow in your work. Can't you make the food faster? Greg married someone like you, who can't do household chores. He's so pitiful.
My mother-in-law attacked me fiercely if she found even the slightest thing I couldn't do. Why did I have to be blamed and scolded so unfairly? Every time I visited my in-laws, I would be upset and in a bad mood from being unjustly scolded by my mother-in-law. And as these days continued, it became quite mentally challenging for a while. My husband must have sensed it.
Emma, is my mom saying something to you?
My husband suddenly said that, and I was surprised. And he told me that I didn't have to come with him to my in-laws' house if I didn't want to. Thanks to that, I only needed to show up at my in-laws' house for important family events, and I felt much relieved. I was truly grateful that my husband cared for me in that way. I genuinely felt that I had married an amazing person. And in the blink of an eye, 2 years had passed since we got married. In the midst of it, I I discovered that I was pregnant. When I told my husband, he was overjoyed.
Really? Emma, thank you.
My husband loves children, actually. He was incredibly happy when he found out we are having our own child.
From now on, I will work harder than ever. Emma, prioritize resting and taking care of your body.
Okay, I got it. I'm looking forward to it. My husband takes great care of me. And it made me truly realize that I was indeed pregnant. But now, after a long time, my troublesome mother-in-law started getting deeply involved. Since it's your first childbirth, you must want some advice, right?
I'll support you, so tell me anything you need.
My mother-in-law seems happy. But honestly, I found it annoying how she forcefully tried to get involved. I expressed my gratitude while brushing it off casually, but since then, my mother-in-law started coming to our house quite often.
Emma, I'm here.
Huh? What happened all of a sudden?
What do you mean? It's for the sake of your baby, of course. I need to check if you're having proper meals. Also, I thought I should see how much you've improved with the household chores in these 2 years.
My mother-in-law said with a mean smile. She seemed pleased to be able to pick on me after such a long time. I became very anxious. If this situation continued, it might have a negative impact on my unborn baby.
Huh? Mom was here?
Yeah, it was sudden, so I was surprised.
I see. You don't have to let her in if it's too much.
Okay, thanks, honey. My husband said that to me. So from then on, I didn't let my mother-in-law into the house and pretended not to be home. And then, my mother-in-law, "Where on earth are you going? You should come back immediately. It's affecting the baby." She called me numerous times and sent messages like that. I couldn't block her calls since that wouldn't be right. But I was fed up with the content notifications on my buzzing phone. This created a vicious cycle where I became stressed and concerned about her messages. I pondered on what to do for a while, and reluctantly, I discussed it with my husband. Even he was unsure about what to do.
I see. I'll tell Mom not to contact you too often.
Saying that, my husband contacted my mother-in-law.
Mom, you don't have to visit our house too frequently. Huh? But what if something happens to Emma?
It's okay.
We've made sure we can reach out to each other immediately if anything happens. It's actually more stressful for Emma when you come over frequently or contact her like a maniac. Is that what Emma is saying? No, it's not like that, but we just want a safe delivery for the baby. Without any stress, you know? So you were saying I'm the cause of her stress? My. What a terrible daughter-in-law. Well, I've understood her opinion. Mom, I think you are interpreting things strangely.
My husband had put the call on speaker, so I heard every word my mother-in-law said. Her words and actions are just imposition, disguised as goodwill. And even after that, my mother-in-law continued to call me multiple times and ring the doorbell. And when she realized I wasn't answering, she contacted me even more. Even my husband was exasperated at this point. I was in the final month of pregnancy, and it was a crucial time for me and the baby. So, I didn't want to be disturbed by mother-in-law because of something like this. That's when my husband had a suggestion, and we made a decision. Greg, are you sure about this?
Yeah. I'm tired of being bothered by my mom anymore. Let's make sure we can spend time peacefully, okay?
Yeah, thank you. I was really glad that my husband was on my side. After that, I went to the hospital when I went into labor on my due date. And our baby was born safely. A healthy baby girl. My husband and father-in-law were so delighted with the birth of our adorable daughter. But my mother-in-law,
So, he's not a boy after all.
she made an unthinkable remark. I was really angry because I had gone through the pain of childbirth. And she suddenly said something like that. My husband and father-in-law were also shocked. My husband spoke to my mother-in-law.
Mom, if you were going to say things like that, please leave.
Greg? Why? Right now, I want to be with only the people who are genuinely happy about this child's birth. Of course, I'm happy too.
Then you wouldn't make remarks like earlier, would you?
I just thought that having a successor might be necessary. That's all.
What are you saying? I'm not some kind of a business owner, you know? Who needs a successor?
My father-in-law also sided with me, and I was grateful for that. Perhaps feeling at a disadvantage, my mother-in-law apologized. I'm sorry. I take back what I said earlier. She apologized like that. Afterward, my mother-in-law became quiet, but she glared at me the whole time. 2 days later, I received a message from my mother-in-law. Hello? What's the matter?
How long do you plan on sleeping? You're such a lazy person.
Excuse me?
You are too sloppy.
I can't believe it. I just gave birth to my daughter, you know.
So what? What's your point?
As a wife, you should have come back home on the day of giving birth and done the household chores.
Just because Greg spoils you doesn't mean I'll forgive you. If you can't bear a boy, then at least handle other matters properly.
My mother-in-law continued to say unreasonable things like that. There's no need for me to show mercy to someone like her. No matter what you say, I won't obey.
What? Come back immediately. I will beat the rotten mentality out of you.
My mother-in-law got angry and said that. Even if you say that, I'm no longer at the hospital.
Huh? Then where are you right now?
So I honestly told my mother-in-law where I was. I'm currently at my parents' house. And Greg is with me too.
Greg too?
Yes. We've decided to live here. We've made the decision to start our life in my hometown. My mother-in-law was clearly shaken by the sad news over the phone. Yes, my husband and I chose to live in my hometown, which is in a rural area. My husband arranged to work remotely through his company, allowing us to live anywhere. So, after giving birth, my husband and I decided to start our life in my hometown. It's a place full of nature, which is great for raising a child.
Why? Why would you do that?
My mother-in-law was deeply disturbed. Don't you understand? Please reflect on your own doings.
This is all your idea, isn't it? Dawn involved Greg in this.
Actually, it was Greg who suggested it to me. And your husband also said he couldn't take it anymore.
What are you talking about?
It seems like he's decided to live separately soon, and he's already rented a new place. Huh. I guess you haven't heard about it yet. Well, instead of tormenting me, maybe you should be more concerned about yourself. Anyway, we're done with any involvement with you. We're cutting ties. I think your husband will inform you directly as well.
No way.
My mother-in-law was at the loss for words due to the shock. I didn't stop the momentum and delivered my final farewell. Well then, good luck and goodbye. Afterward, my husband and father-in-law followed through with their plan and directly informed my mother-in-law about the separation. She was shocked and bowed her head in disappointment. From then on, my mother-in-law sent me numerous messages apologizing. Perhaps she thought that if I forgive her, everything would go back to normal. However, at this point, I have no intention of forgiving her. Of course, I have no plans to let her meet our daughter for the time being. And my husband agrees with this decision. Both my husband and father-in-law are ignoring any communication from my mother-in-law. I heard that she is living a lonely and desolate life in her spacious home where no one comes to visit. It seems that she is mentally struggling. I can understand to some extent the excessive affection she has for her son, especially now that we have a daughter. However, using that love as an excuse to belittle to hurt others is wrong. I don't know how or when my mother-in-law's personality became so twisted, but I hope she reflects on her actions. Sometimes I can't help but think that if she hadn't bullied me, she wouldn't be all alone now. Although I went through a tough time with her, what made me the happiest was that my husband was on my side from the beginning. I realized once again that I can build a truly happy family with him. In that sense, I am grateful to my mother-in-law for raising my husband. Moreover, it's a waste of life to hold on to grudges. Although I can't imagine it right now, I hope that someday, somewhere, I can have a positive reunion with my mother-in-law. I want to live happy, nurturing a loving relationship with my husband and watching our daughter grow.
From now on, we'll split all living expenses equally. Huh? Why? Well, I can't trust you since you grew up in a single-parent household. Charles suddenly changed his attitude the moment we got married and said such things. Wait! Why are you saying this all of a sudden? Look, anyway, we need to have photos from our honeymoon. We went on our honeymoon as a fake couple. Why do we need to take pictures together? That's right. Then I came up with a plan. If you insist on having photos, then I have a condition too. My husband turned pale after hearing my statement. Don't joke around like that.
My name is Lynn, a 29-year-old office worker. I'm currently in a relationship with someone. His name is Charles, and we were classmates in university. We were in the same seminar group and worked on assignments together. Although we didn't develop a romantic relationship during our student days, we occasionally went out for drinks and maintained some interaction after becoming working adults. But due to our busy schedule, there was a period that we didn't see each other for a while. During that time, we reunited at a mutual friend's wedding. After the wedding reception, we went out for drinks together, and the conversation was lively and enjoyable. Since then, we started meeting regularly and even started meeting on weekends. As we went on more dates, we officially became a couple. I never expected that we would transform from friends to lovers like this, so I was surprised by this development. But it was easier because we already knew each other to some extent. From then on, our relationship continued smoothly. He, being a seasoned adult in terms of dating experience, took the lead and provided a reliable support. He came up with various date plans and took me to different places. I felt like this was different from anyone I've dated before. No one has gone this far in thinking and caring for me. That's why I gradually became more attracted to him.
I thought we could go on a little trip today.
Huh? Now? It's already after work.
And it's 6 p.m.
Yeah,
but I was thinking of going for a drive today.
Oh, okay. I understand. Let's go then. I didn't understand his intention of spontaneously going on a drive on this evening, but I still got into the passenger seat as he told me to. We enjoyed the drive together, listening to songs from our school days and talking about work. After driving for about 2 hours, he parked the car in the parking lot. Charles, what's wrong? Do you need to use the restroom or something? When I asked that, he smiled and said, "Just wait a moment." And then, 10 minutes later, beautiful fireworks suddenly lit up the night sky right in front of us. Wow, fireworks! Amazing!
Actually, this place isn't well known. Since we're here, let's watch it outside while feeling the night breeze.
Yeah. He and I got out of the car and watched the fireworks, beautifully bursting in the sky. There was no crowd, and it was the first time I had seen fireworks this big and beautiful. Charles, it's amazing! Did you know about this hidden spot?
Sort of. I researched various places because I wanted to come here with you, Lynn.
Huh, for me?
Yeah. And so, Lynn, will you marry me?
Huh? I need you in my life. Amidst the continuously launching fireworks, Charles proposed to me. I was simply astonished by this romantic proposal. At the same time, my heart started pounding rapidly, and I realized that this was real. Of course. My answer was a resounding yes. I'm so happy. I look forward to our future together. And just like that, we decided to get married. I immediately informed my parents about it.
Huh. Lynn is getting married. Well, that's surprising.
Dad, that's kind of rude, you know?
Well, that was a joke, but it's really a joyous occasion.
Yes, it's wonderful that our only daughter is getting married. Lynn, congratulations.
Thank you, Mom.
Dad, I'll bring my fiancé next time.
Yes, we're looking forward to it.
And then, 2 weeks later, I brought Charles to my parents' house. Charles greeted my parents politely, and they immediately liked him.
Oh, so your father runs a company?
Yes, it's a family business
that has been passed down since my grandfather, and I plan to take over someday.
I see. That's impressive. You come from a distinguished family. My parents were surprised when they heard about Charles' family. In fact, Charles' father is a business owner, and Charles himself is the son of the wealthy family. But since I had known about it since our student days, I hadn't really thought much about it. Even though he is a wealthy son, Charles is still Charles, and it didn't matter to me. Maybe he liked that I treated him normally without being affected by his wealth. I'm sure many women must have pursued him for his wealth. Anyway, I was glad that he and my parents got along well. But later on, during a conversation about my parents, something caught my attention. It was when he casually asked my parents a question.
What was Lynn like as a child?
My mother answered that question.
Lynn has always been a responsible child. When she was 5 years old, I divorced her previous father and raised her single-handedly. She always helped with household chores, and it was a great help. I was happily listening to my mother's words of gratitude. But Charles beside me,
had a surprised expression.
Huh? Lynn? You grew up in a single-parent household?
Yeah, I guess I didn't mention it before. My current father became part of the family when my mom remarried while I was in high school.
I wish you told me such an important thing earlier.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He had a slightly displeased look, and an awkward atmosphere filled the air. But I treat Lynn as if she were my own biological daughter, and she also accepts me as her father. So, it's not much different from a normal family.
My father's efforts to mediate seemed to calm Charles down a bit. However, I was slightly surprised by his attitude. Could there be some problem with the fact that I grew up in a single-parent household? Maybe he's concerned about those aspects because he is a wealthy son? If that's the case, I worry that his parents might oppose our marriage. With those concerns in mind, I went to his parents' place to introduce myself and pay my respects. Nice to meet you. My name is Lynn.
Nice to meet you too.
Charles' parents weren't particularly friendly, but they didn't say anything to me either. The marriage greetings went smoothly.
Well, Lynn, good to see you. Take care of Charles from now on, please.
With those words from his father, the greetings quickly ended. It was all too abrupt, and I was taken aback. Afterward, the meeting between both families ended quickly, and Charles and I decided to get married. We had our wedding ceremony, and our married life began. I had some slight anxieties about our first time living together, but I was more excited. However, something unexpected happened right after we moved into our new home and started living together. My husband suddenly said something like this.
So, our married life has begun, but I have one condition for this marriage.
Huh? A condition?
From now on, we'll split all living expenses evenly.
Huh? Why? Although I also work, I was a bit surprised by his sudden request. I thought that as a married couple, we would share our finances together.
I don't want you taking away my assets if something happens.
Charles? Why would you say something like that?
Well, I can't trust someone who grew up in a single-parent household like you.
To my surprise, my husband's attitude suddenly changed the moment we got married. And he said such things. Wait, what do you mean by that?
People who grew up in single-parent households and poverty might have ample opportunity to target my assets, right? I can't trust you, so we'll split the living expenses. That way, you won't have any chance to take advantage of me.
But that's... I was taken aback and bewildered by my husband's sudden harsh words. In an instant, my feelings towards him began to fade. Furthermore, even though our married life had just begun, he hardly came home. He would return late at night every day and not even touch the meals I prepared. So I started doing only my share of the household chores. If we are splitting living expenses, then we should also consider dividing the food expenses. I felt resentful about going out of my way to prepare something for my husband. It seemed like he didn't care at all when I only did my share of the household chores. It didn't take long for our conversations to dwindle to nothing. We were merely living together under the same roof. Can we even call this a marriage? I became incredibly sad day by day. I'm sure my parents would be devastated if they knew about my current situation. They believed that I would be happy after getting married. So I felt terribly sorry for putting my parents in this situation. It hadn't even been 2 months since we got married. And yet, Why did we end up in such a cold and distant relationship? What did my husband intend when he married me in the first place? While feeling unsettled, I went through each day. I focused on my work and tried not to think about my husband. But then, one day, out of the blue, my husband mentioned going on honeymoon. Huh? What's with the sudden decision? You're treating me like a stranger. So what's the point? As I muttered to myself, my husband spoke. Going on a honeymoon is just a formality. As the son of the company's president, I have to let my colleagues know that we went on a honeymoon, right? What? What's that about? Just worrying about what people think? Shut up. As the next CEO, I have to consider many things. Well, it might be bothersome for you, who's just after my assets, right? Provoking me like that, my husband continued. Fine, I'll go. But you'll cover the expenses. Huh? Why? Why? Because I'm not interested. That's why. Since you were dragging me there against my will, at least cover the costs. Fine. I guess I have no choice. And so, I ended up going on a honeymoon with my husband, completely unenthusiastic about it. Our destination was Tuscany. A trip abroad with my husband should have been enjoyable, especially since it was our honeymoon. No. As expected, the trip was not enjoyable at all. The plane ride, in particular, was truly agonizing. I wish we had separate seats instead of sitting next to each other. And finally, we arrived in Tuscany. Well, I'll do things on my own. Yeah, sure, whatever. I wanted to get away from my husband as soon as possible, so I went to the places I had researched on my own. And for about half a day, I enjoyed sightseeing alone. I was having a somewhat enjoyable time, so I was calmly sitting at a cafe when suddenly my husband walked in. Wait, what? What's going on? My husband sat right across from me without any warning. From now on, we'll be doing everything together. Why? What's the reason? We need to have photos of our honeymoon. Otherwise, our employees might get suspicious. I was annoyed by my husband, who was interrupting my alone time for such a stupid reason. At that moment, I came up with an idea. If that's the case, I have a condition. What? What condition? I want you to cover all our living expenses. Huh? Because we're a married couple, right? Then I want you to fulfill your role as the son of the company's president and cover all our living expenses. If you don't, I'll tell your employees that we are splitting the living expenses. Upon hearing my words, my husband turned pale. What? Don't screw with me. If it's known that I am doing something so stingy, my reputation will suffer. Huh. So you do realize you were being stingy. Well then, from now on, you will cover all our living expenses. Otherwise, we won't take any photos together. And I will spill everything. Damn it. How did it come to this? Charles looked very frustrated. I thought to myself that I had won, and I smiled widely in the photos. Afterward, we checked into the hotel. For some reason, my husband had booked a room together. Why aren't we in separate rooms? Because it's a honeymoon trip for a married couple. If we had separate rooms, the hotel staff would find it strange. Don't you think? Also, my father and the others have been urging us to have a child soon. Wait a minute. A child? We have such a cold and distant relationship. And you want to have a child? Well, as long as we secure a successor,
It doesn't matter who the partner is. You're truly despicable. Can't be helped. You married me, so just give it up. Don't you dare think of me as an easy woman. If you try anything, I'll call the police right away. Huh? The police? Yes, that's right. It's not something we agreed upon. You'll end up being arrested as a criminal away from home. Stop messing around. You're completely useless. I thought if I praised you enough, we could get married, have a child, and create a formal family. You. How could you? Unable to find the words to respond to my husband's abusive remark, I fell silent. What? Are you disappointed now? That's right. I will inherit the position of the company president and live comfortably. If I do things that please my father, I can become the president sooner. So I thought I would let him have grandchildren as soon as possible. He's a complete scambag. He should be evaluated and become the president based on his work abilities. I sighed deeply in utter disbelief. But it seemed that my husband was also angered by my attitude, as he said the following words to me. I can't stand being with you anymore. Let's get a divorce. I responded immediately, delighted, as if I had been waiting for this. Great, I agree. Let's do it. My husband's eyes widened in surprise. But since he had brought it up himself, he must have thought there was no turning back. And so, we settled the matter with a divorce right there. Don't regret it, I retorted without backing down. Are you sure you'll be okay inheriting the company? You might end up ruining it during your tenure. Don't make fun of me. You'll be the one at a loss from this divorce. Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to share a room with you, so I'll get a separate room. I said that and stayed in a separate room. Then I turned off my smartphone and enjoyed the rest of the trip alone. I no longer wanted to have any conversation with my husband, and our unbelievably cold honeymoon came to an end. As soon as I returned home, I packed my belongings and left the house immediately. Do you have to leave in such a hurry? I just don't want to be with you a moment longer. I can't pretend that you didn't say all those hurtful words to me. I left those words behind and left the house where we had lived together, returning to my parents' home. On the way, I went to the municipal office and submitted the divorce application. When I informed my parents about it, they were surprised and furious. But at that time, I had already come up with a certain revenge plan. A week later, I received a bunch of phone calls from my husband. Hello? What's up? You... Are you kidding me? Everyone at the company knows about our breakup. What did you do? And my father personally handed me a pink slip. Oh dear, that's unfortunate, isn't it? It seems that the audio file had an impact. Audio file? What do you mean? Well, actually, Yes. I had recorded all the conversation with my husband during the trip. I was certain that his bad personality would eventually surface. And as I expected, he kept making offensive remarks throughout the trip. So I recorded it and sent the data to his workplace. In no time, the audio data became a hot topic within the company and even reached the ears of the president, who was his father. My husband was quickly dismissed and cut off even by his own parents. What am I supposed to do now? Abandon my family? Lost my job? Well, in that case, why did you go to Katie? Huh? Oh, you didn't think I knew about your affair? I knew that you were cheating on me. Oh, what? So, even if we were a sham couple,
I'll still be entitled to alimony, won't I?
That's... Please, Lynn, reconsider.
And so, I claimed alimony from my ex-husband and his affair partner, collecting it from each of them. My ex-husband lost his savings in an instant, was abandoned by his affair partner, and couldn't find a new job. Well, it was all his own doing, and I can't sympathize with him. Meanwhile, I was promoted at my current job. I thought I would take a break from romance and marriage for a while. Honestly, I can't say that I am completely unaffected by what happened. The fact that I was betrayed by someone I loved is undeniable. That's why my goal now is to focus on advancing in my career as much as possible. Someday, this marriage and divorce will become solid events of the past. I want to create a fulfilling life with both love and work. So I'll do my best today, just like any other day.